Good morning, guys, and welcome to the show. Thank you for tuning in. And listen, I'm really glad to have you guys here. Now, today is Wednesday, March 27th, 2019. Wow, it's 2019. It seems like yesterday it was just changing over to the year 2000, and all these people out there were saying, hey, you know what? We're going to have an internet holocaust because the computers are not set up for the year 2000s. Y2K, I remember that very well. You know, it's very interesting. But anyway, listen, going back to the 1850s, this is the way the scientific community is. I'm going to tell you how they are. They're academics within the scientific community. And they're looked to as the experts. And because they're looked to as the experts, they always have to try to come up with an explanation that'll wow us guys out here. You know what I mean? An explanation, even if it's not true, they'll go with it. They'll run with it. One of the things is the theory of evolution. It's always a theory, but you know, they taught it in the schools as if it was a fact. Well, back in the year 1850, the scientific community wanted to come up with an explanation for all of us. We have this question we all have, you know, when we're born. One of the big questions is, why are we here? How did we get here? Where did we come from? And all these questions. So they came up with answers. And, you know, to support this theory, they went to great extremes. But it was a great theory, really. For back in the year 1850, it was a great explanation for all of us of how and where we come from and everything else. And it sounded very plausible to them back in 1850, you know. But they stuck with it doggedly because basically, you know, they kind of stuck with this theory. But anyway, even to support this theory, they came up with things that were more than questionable, downright hoaxes to support their theory. One of them was probably something that you guys never heard of before, and I'm going to show you real quick. We'll go right here on this page. This was called the Piltdown man. To support their theory of evolution, they came up with the Piltdown man. And, you know, I mean, they were all in there, you know, studying skulls, trying to find something that was called the missing link. Because they thought for sure, you know, they were going to be able to support the theory of evolution, this great theory from the 1850s. And they were all hunting for the missing link, you know. So they came up with their missing link, and it was called Piltdown Man. And we'll take a look at it right here. This was the Piltdown Man. Here he is right here, and it was a skull that they found, and they were all sure that this was the missing link that would support their theory of evolution. But as it turns out, what this was that the dark parts on this skull of the Piltdown Man were the parts that they actually found. Like a little bit on the back of the skull here, and a little bit on the nose, you know, and a little bit here on the jaw, these dark parts. But all the rest was created by an artist. The rest of the skull, you know, the teeth and everything. But what they came up with was this. This was an artist's conception. And this was their missing link. And they taught that this was real, that this was their missing link to support their theory of evolution and everything else. But later, it was found out that this was actually an elaborate hoax. The whole thing was an elaborate hoax. The chin bones and everything that they found here were nothing more than an ape that they had glued in, and they had created all of this from manufacturing it from artist conception. But now, one of the things we're going to take a look at real quick here is we're going to switch subjects. The same thing with the scientific community. They support, basically they all go around like parrots. They'll listen to what one expert has to say, and then all the rest of the scientific community will take that and run with it, and they'll all act like a parrot, and they'll parrot what he says. So here what we have is what we're looking at is Yellowstone volcano. And they can see the areas in the ground where there was previous eruptions. If we take a close look at this, now, because now we're switching the subject to Yellowstone. But why I made the point about evolution was the scientific community dogmatically stuck to certain reasoning that they had, and they won't change from it. Once it's almost like they're I don't know how to explain it, but they're very rigid. Anyway, they say that these deformations in the ground from previous eruptions, and they know exactly where they're at. They can see on this map here 7 of them from previous eruptions. They say they occur every I think it's 600,000 years apart or something like that, some massive distance in time apart that these deformations occur. But, you know, I disagree with the scientific community wholeheartedly on this. I think one of the reasons why they're putting the 600,000 year time frame between each one of these eruptions is they're going with the same old thing that they had with evolution, to try to explain evolution, because they can't see mankind changing very much very quickly. They say, well, it happened over millions and millions of years, to try to help the explanation along. And so I think that they've kind of done this same thing with these calderas from Yellowstone. They've made them long distances in time. It's easy for these guys, these academics, to throw around 1,000,000 years. Do these guys realize how long 1,000,000 years is? And what kind of erosion can take place over that period of time? I personally believe, myself, that if these Yellowstone calderas were actually 1,000,000 years apart, that they wouldn't even have been able to find them in the first place because of the erosion. My personal belief is that these Yellowstone calderas occur in more than maybe 5,000 or 6,000 years apart, rather than 500,000 or 600,000 years apart. Well, what's been happening? You know, since the 1920s until now, Yellowstone came alive again back in the 1920s. Now, I've done some further research into this, you know, deeper research that I'm not going to go into on this show, because I don't want to make this opening last too long. I'm already almost 5 minutes in. But I personally believe, from my further research, that these Yellowstone calderas are only about 5,000 or 6,000 or 7,000 years apart. And that's why they've been able to find them so clearly and outline them so clearly. And also, I personally believe that the Earth's crust displaces during the eruption, because we see the movement of the Earth's crust on each one of these calderas. It actually moves, the whole Earth's crust moves during some sort of an event. Now, probably caused by the sun, the geo-electromagnetic effects of our sun. You have to understand, our sun is so much larger than the Earth. We are nothing but a little tiny pebble compared to a big, enormous sun. I mean, it's huge. And it's not very far away from us. Its geo-electromagnetic effects on the Earth could be quite devastating. So anyway, that being said, back in the 1920s, the volcano came alive again. It's building up pressure. What does that mean? Let me think for a minute. I'll tell you what it means. It means that probably within the not-too-distant future, we're going to have to really worry about Yellowstone. And to help confirm this to you guys, NASA, they know things that they're not talking about. But they, believe me, if they're coming up with kooky plans, like trying to drill a hole down into Yellowstone and inject water into it, you know, they wouldn't be coming up with these kooky plans unless they know stuff that they're not telling us. Anyway, moving on, I got to get into the market report this morning. I personally believe that this volcano is probably going to blow probably 20 or 30 years from now, but we don't really probably have to worry about it too much right now. But she's, ever since the 1920s, has become active. The ground's been rising in that area, you know. Hot magma's been pushing up from underneath the ground and creating pools underneath this thing. We got to keep our eye on it, though. It's one of the things I keep my eye on, you know, is this volcano. I got channels and stuff I go to and keep my eye on it. Right now, it doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot right now, but it could become much more active very quickly, so I have to keep my eye on this. This is one of the things I keep my eye on in this channel. Not that I'm into volcanoes or overly particularly interested in volcanoes, but this is an enormous volcano. This is not your normal volcano. That's why I watch it for you guys, is because this volcano is a beast. It's a beast. And if it blows up, I mean, it just could be devastating because of the size of it. It's huge. It's huge. Anyway, to show you guys how huge it is, here shows you the damage it would do on a map of the United States if it blows. Okay? Do you see what I'm showing you here? This is the damage it would do, and this is why I keep my eye on it for you guys. So anyway, let's get on with other subjects. Let's take a look here at what's going on with Brexit today. You know, I'm going to tell you what, honest to God, the media doesn't understand what's going on here. And just like the other academics in the scientific world, when they don't understand what's going on, they'll come up with an explanation for you guys, even if they don't really know all together themselves what's going on. If they're in this position of academia where they get up really high, where they're like, everybody looks up to them and says, "Oh, you're the expert, you know," then sometimes they'll just fudge it if they don't really understand. You know, Brexit is extremely confusing, and that's what I think some of these guys in the media are actually doing, you know. Let's look at this story right here. It says, "Bye-bye Brexit." Really? Really? It's all over? I didn't know that. Everybody can get out and have a party now. It's over. Bye-bye Brexit. Of course, he put a question mark there. In other words, it says, he's saying to you, "I don't know." Well, why did he just say bye-bye Brexit? You know what I mean? If he doesn't know, you know? So, it just smacks of academia to me, you know? Britain, I think this guy's more on the ball. He says, "Britain stands at the brink of chaos." Yeah, and he's got a picture of I almost said Margaret Thatcher, but Theresa May. He's got a picture of Theresa May right there, you know. So anyway, they're all trying to make sense of it for you guys. I understand that they're trying to make sense of it, but getting down to the nitty-gritty of it, Parliament's taking control just for one day. They got control for one day. They're going to vote on it. I guess today's the day. And then it's going to go across Theresa May's desk, you know, and it's up to her at that point. She's going to take a look, and she's going to see what they say in their recommendations, and she's going to evaluate their recommendations. Okay, so we're going to see what's going to happen with this. But anyway, the countdown's on till the 12th of next month. The countdown's on. They need to come up with something. If they don't come up with something, they could fall out. Very well could fall out of the European Union. But, you know, you have to understand something else. The European Union at this point is probably, because of their money, it's because of the euro, it's probably doomed. It's going to take a little while. It's going to take a little while. These countries like Italy are going to... you remember the fall of the former Soviet Union? You know? The same sort of a situation, where the money is going to bring the whole thing down. And it's probably doomed. The euro's probably doomed within the next few years. How long will it take? This is the thing. In its final stages, it might go really fast, and it could create an awful lot of disruption in the world. Now we're going to get right into the markets today. I know I've talked quite a little while about this stuff, you know, but we're going to get right into the markets. First thing we're going to take a look at is the silver price today. We're looking at $15.35. She's down 5 cents on the day, you know. But I'm going to tell you, gold and silver now are starting to get strength, more teeth than they had. And, you know, investors are really nervous right now. But there's other things. There's other forces at play. They're pushing gold and silver. Other forces at play right now. And one of the things is this new Basel III, with banks being able to count gold as a first-tier asset class. First-tier capital asset class. They're going to be able to count their gold. This is going to have a slow but cumulative effect on gold. It's not going to be an immediate thing where gold price is going to snap up to the moon immediately, but it's going to be a slow cumulative effect. Now, as that slow cumulative effect and gold starts to heat up, then sentiment's going to change. I think sentiment is already starting to change as far as gold and silver. A lot of these people that were out there saying, oh, gold's going to go to under 1,000 and silver's going to go under $10. You don't hear that so much anymore, do you anymore? You see sentiment slow. Things don't happen quickly. Things happen slowly. And you see this sentiment starting to change now. You can start to see the forward edge of this sentiment starting to change for gold and silver. Let's take a look at the gold price today. $13.15. It's up 70.70 cents on the day, you know, for gold. $13.15. So staying strong above $13, and that's a really good sign. Now let's go over and take a look at crypto. I'm going to tell you what, you know, crypto foiled the bears. You see, the bears came in here, and they drove the price down to $38.50 on Bitstamp, you know, and that was bearish action. Well, they've sold their coins, and they've got caught with their pants down. They've lost money. Bears do not like losing money. They like making money. Nobody is a trader in any market likes losing money. Today they've lost money. Bitcoin is at $4,008, and you know they were selling in here in the areas of 3,000 whatever. You know, high 3,000s. They've lost money in the trade. They don't like that. They won't do that very many times before sentiment's starting to change on this market as well. So. Now let's move on and take a look at crude oil. Crude oil today is down 7 cents on the day, or 0.12%, $59.87. You know, OPEC is doing a tremendous job of supporting this market and bringing the price up. So this is actually price manipulation, just like gold and silver are manipulated. This whole action from when crude oil was down at $43.93 up to where it's slowly risen up now to $59.61, almost right across $60, is all price manipulation. This market's manipulated by OPEC. They actually had tankers going around in the Atlantic and in the Pacific there not long ago. They had 12 of them, big tankers that were empty. Didn't have any oil in them, sailing across the ocean. Can you imagine? This is part of the manipulation of the price. But we all know OPEC has been manipulating the oil price for years, so we kind of accept it, you know, you know. Let's take a look now at the Dow Jones for the day. And let me refresh the chart here. We're up 75 points on the day. I'm going to tell you what. This market right here, you know, I think it turned over right here. February 25th. I think it turned over. Okay, it was 2,691. I think right there at that spot, that day, I think that's when she turned over. I think she's turned over now. And, of course, you know what can happen after a market turns over. And I'll tell you, I think this bounce from December 24th, this bounce upwards that led us all the way up to 26,091. I think that bounce right there, mostly from corporate buybacks and stuff, you know, was kind of like, almost like a dead cat bounce, you know, and I think this market, you know, could really roll over hard, especially if Brexit comes in with a hard Brexit, because it's so high. It's been buoyed up so high with all these corporate buybacks. Let's take a look now at U.S. Treasuries. And I'm going to do the whole line of Treasuries all the way down the row. And the reason why is because the movement has started again, the crazy movement. Look at all the red arrows down. We got some of them doing a lot of movement. The 2-year, look, 4 basis points already today in the 2-year. It's down 2.21. And you know what? The spread's not very much. Look at the 30-year, 2.85, and look at the 1 month, 2.45. So we got a very, very tight spread between the very, very early U.S. 1 month and the U.S. 30-year. Very, very tight spread there across the board. So we're looking at 2.45 on the 1 month, 2.46 on the 3 month. 2.47 on the 6 month, 2.41 on the US 1 year, 2.20 on the US 2 year, 2.15 on the US 3 year, 2.16 on the 5 year, 2.27 on the 7 year, 2.38 on the 10 year, and 2.84 on the 30 year on Treasuries. Now let's take a look at the US dollar index. And we see a 96.84. It's been kind of going along sideways today. What was the story I had here? Oh, yeah. I had this story here. The EU Parliament. Now, I just got finished telling you a few minutes ago, the EU, is doomed. But boy, gosh, they're making laws that are going to be draconian before they go down. And this is a draconian one. EU Parliament signs off on disastrous internet law. I'm going to tell you, you guys out there, my charts I use on this show, it's harmless. I go and I use the charts that these other guys do put these charts together, but I use them, I'm probably not going to be able to do that. I'm going to have to make my own charts for this show for you guys. It's going to take me extra time every day, to make charts for you guys. And maybe they won't be quite as neat looking as these charts you see. But when this law comes into effect, you're going to have to be careful. Anything you post on the internet that's been created by somebody else, even a picture, anything. If you post it on the internet, you want to show your friends or anything, this draconian new law that they got coming in is going to, it's approved the Copyright Digital Single Market Directive. This is what it's called. This law, and basically there's going to be much more suing across the internet for copyright rights and everything else. You're not going to be able to use anything that's not your own creation on the internet when this law comes into effect. And what it's going to do is people who create on the internet, they like to take ideas from other people. They're going to have to be careful on everything. It's just going to make this whole dark looming cloud of having to be careful all the time on the internet. Watch what you post and everything else. And be careful, because you might be infringing on somebody else's rights, somebody you don't even know, And so everything's going to have to be, that you create on the internet, it's going to have to be all just you. Nothing, you're not going to be able to even maybe, I don't know how far this law will go. I don't understand all the ins and outs of it just yet completely. But it's scary. I just see it as a clamp down on expression, and just making things harder and harder, all these little laws. Every time they put a new law into the books, these lawmakers, we give them power. We call them lawmakers, We give them power over us, and they just keep adding more and more laws because that's their job as a lawmaker. And they don't take the old laws off the books. In the end, they just keep cramping you down tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And in the end, you can't do anything. In the end, they'll have a law about breathing, and you'll have to have a license in order to breathe every year. Oh no, I forgot to renew my breathing license this year. I better get back in there and pay for that new license to breathe. Honey, I won't be able to breathe 2 hours from now because I didn't pay my breathing license. I got to get in. And you'll be driving your car as fast as you can into the courthouse to pay that $30 a year breathing license. Otherwise, by mid-afternoon, they might send a guy out there to put a clamp on you. And a clamper will come. Oh, no. It's just like something out of these movies, Soylent Green. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Anyway, listen, thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you guys on the very next show. Bye-bye, guys.